What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Drive for Show, DFS for Dough here on Rotogrinders. Happy to be with you, breaking down another week of golf action in daily fantasy. And we've got the Wyndham Championship this week, the last week before the playoffs begin. So the top 125 golfers in the standings after this week will be in the FedEx Cup playoffs. You'll see a lot of golfers in this field that are kind of on either side of that bubble line, trying to make sure they get into the playoffs. Not the strongest field this week, but still a fun tournament to break down after we've had some, we had the Olympics, a smaller field event. We had a WGC, smaller field event last week. So we finally do have the full field of 156 golfers in attendance this week at the Wyndham Championship. So we'll break it down for you over the next 45 minutes to an hour. And I am Justin Van Zuiden, as usual. We'll be hosting the show for you. We've got a two-man booth tonight. So it's just yours truly and Mr. Notorious, Derek Farnsworth. Noto, what's going on?
Yeah, not much. I was telling you before the show, busy weekend for me. We ended up driving to Disneyland on Thursday, about an 11-hour drive. All day in Disneyland Friday and Saturday, and then home from Disneyland on Sunday. So I didn't see one shot live, kind of like you at the Olympics. I didn't really sweat it all that hard, although I couldn't pass up a week to have some DFS contests in there. So ended up being a pretty good week. Had Abraham answer as one of my core plays, and obviously he ended up coming through in the playoff. But it was crazy. I mean, we predicted the winning score to be, 15, 16, and it ended there. But I mean, Harris English, 20 under par at the turn. And the winner ends up at 16, and he didn't even make the playoffs. So pretty crazy ending there.
I mentioned that during the Olympics, I took my first full week off in a while. Of course, came back last week and played, I think, 50 lineups in the lower dollar stuff on DraftKings. I did not have any of the three golfers in the playoff in my player pool, and I didn't have English, and I didn't have Bryson either. So it didn't matter that they faded. I had none of the top five, and I got goosed. So DraftKings gave me the old punishment for taking the week off, and it wasn't a bounce back with a big week. It was you got zero back. So not the best week for me. Faded a lot of the chalkier names in the GPPs, and most of them came through. So, but very strange back nine there. English and DeChambeau in that final pairing. I believe they got warned on the 6th hole and got put on the clock on the 7th or 8th hole. Bryson had a shot that was kind of blocked by a fence. Had to get a ruling on that. And then the difficult par 3 on the back, they both put balls into the water. So that, didn't help their timing. And basically English said he had to rush through the back 9, and it was hot and humid. And, that's what Memphis is this time of year. So kind of an unfortunate circumstance. And I don't want him to say that, he blamed it on that, but he kind of did. But it's, it's legit. Not being able to go through your routine and, and the whole circus that comes with playing with Bryson in a final pairing. And it was just a disaster for those two guys. And basically they came back to the field. When they were 20 under and 18 under, nobody else was better than 16 under, and nobody else got better than that. So they had it all within their grasp. And if you would have told me on the 10th hole that the winner would not have been one of those two guys, I would have thought you were crazy. So yeah, just a wild week.
Yeah, for sure. And, shout out to Harris for doing the interview afterwards with Amanda. I ended up listening to it, after the tournament was already over. But yeah, he could have just walked right in, not talked to anybody. Gave a very candid interview. I thought that was cool. Like you mentioned, he said he was kind of sped up and couldn't slow himself down. Couldn't really take his time over shots. And then, Bryson hitting into fans again without yelling for. That's becoming, a bigger issue each and every week. I don't know what he has against warning the fans about it, but a little strange there. But yeah, we saw Hideki 63 on Sunday, Burns 64 on Sunday. Just crazy. You thought they were definitely out of it. If you were playing Showdown and you loaded up at the top, you were probably not going to be cashing anything.
Yeah, and that's one of those weeks where there wasn't probably a bunch of ties there at the top of the Showdown contest. But how was Disneyland, by the way?
Oh man, it was a blast. I think I was sore because I'd carried my little one. He fell asleep both nights. So we stayed at the Disneyland Hotel. It's like a half-mile walk to Disneyland. But yeah, we had a blast. It's a long time, and it's a lot of walking. I think we walked 10 miles each day, something like that. So yeah, it was fun. But 2 days at Disneyland is a pretty good number. I couldn't stay for a third, I don't think.
Yeah, we the one year that the last time we went to Disney World down in Florida, they had one night that Magic Kingdom was open till 1 a.m. And we both of our kids made it till 1 o'clock, and then fell asleep. We kind of left like in the heat of the middle of the day and went back to the hotel and took a nap and stuff for a while, but then went back from like 6 p.m. till 1 a.m. and they both fell asleep on the bus right back to the hotel. But cool memories anyway when you get to do that. And after not having done much for a couple of years, it's a nice change. So
Sure.
glad you guys had a good weekend. Well, let's go ahead and shift our attention here to this week. We've got the Wyndham Sedgefield Country Club, as usual, will be the host course, and we've had this tournament around for a while, so looks like 20-21 under usually the winning score here, and that's pretty rare for it's a par 70 course. Most of the par 70s don't play quite that easy, so looks like the guys will have some pins to hunt this week as they try to secure those playoff spots.
Yeah, for sure. It should be a fun week. I don't love the Birdie Fest, but when you mix them in, every here and there, I don't mind getting behind them. And I do like the par 70 Birdie Fest a little bit more. I don't know, it just brings everyone into play. Like you mentioned, there's not really a skill set that you need to have. You do got to play out of the fairways. They're easy to hit on average, but the penalty for missing them is greater here than it is on most PGA Tour courses. So even though a lot of guys won't be hitting driver, I will be looking at driving accuracy this week. You're going to be having a lot of approach shots from 125 to 200 yards. So if you want to look at proximity numbers, those three buckets would be the ones I would look at. The greens, they're pretty easy to hit too. So I'm not looking at around the green at all. You got to be hitting them at a pretty high clip. And if you aren't making birdies, if you're going to be scrambling all week, you're probably not going to be in the mix. The greens themselves are Bermuda, if you like looking at those splits. And I think we kind of all agree you're going to have to make a ton of birdies. So looking at birdie or better rate certainly makes some sense. And then I was just looking at some of Ron stuff, PGA Splits 101. He has his comp course index. He has like 7 or 8 comp courses. If you want to check that out, I thought that was really interesting. No surprise that Webb Simpson easily the best at the comp courses as well. So I kind of like looking at that. He also has some other great splits. If you want to check out the new splits tool here at Rotogrinders. Is there anything else you're looking at?
Yeah, no, that pretty much covers it. I think the other angle that people will ask about this week, anything with the playoff narrative. So you got to be in the top 125 after this week. The guys that are in that kind of 121 to 135 bucket that need a really good week to, to stay in the playoff mix. Any weight to that, the motivation angle this week?
I'm trying to stay away from narratives that you can't quantify. They've burned me far too often this year and in years past. And I've always been a sucker for narratives. So I will not even be looking at the rankings. There's going to be some guys that play well and get through. There's going to be others that don't play well. And the guys that do get through are going to get all the buzz. And you're going to hear, oh, this guy had the motivation. That's why he played well. But I don't know. If I want to play better, it doesn't mean I'm going to. I just don't think it really works that way. Maybe for, a couple guys here and there, maybe like I don't know, is Ricky and Kuchar, those guys outside?
Yeah, they're like within 5 spots, but they're outside looking in right now. So
maybe they're grinding a little bit more, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to factor it in. I'm just going to play my guys. And if they are outside, that's fine.
I'm going to tell you everybody's spots just to put that bias in your head so that you have to think about it. I'm just kidding. But anyway, some people will play that angle a little bit this week. Everybody from like 101 to 140 in the standings is in the field except Charles Howell, who simply doesn't care at this point in his career. He's made enough money and he chooses his own schedule. So more power to him for that. But anyway, the playoffs will be getting underway next week. And we'll see how the standings shake out at the end of this week. So All right, let's go ahead and dig in. If you didn't see the news earlier today, Patrick Reed has withdrawn, so we can all rejoice that we don't have to try to figure out whether or not Patrick Reed's going to play well this week. I know I am thankful for that. So he is out. Josh Teeter has replaced him in the field. So if you made early bird lineups, make sure you get Patrick Reed out of those if you had him in there. So that leaves us with 5 golfers above 10K. Matsuyama, Oosthuizen, aforementioned great on the comparable courses, Webb Simpson, Willie Z, back from injury, and Jason Kokrak as your 10K plus options this weekend. Seems like it's, on this course, second, third, the last 4 years, pretty hard to ignore Webb here.
Hard to ignore Webb. He was already going to be the highest owned guy. Now with Patrick Reed out, he's definitely going to be the highest owned guy. It's probably going to push it above 30%. And in single entry stuff, I'd guess, 40% or more. But I still like him. You're going to hear it all week. He named his daughter after the tournament, yada, yada, yada. I hate bringing it up, but just shows how much he likes the course. His last 7 trips here, 6 top 6 finishes. And like we always say, we play him on short par 70s that have Bermuda greens. That's just his specialty. So I don't mind the form, back-to-back top 20s. It's at least better than it was prior to that. So, yeah, Webb's my favorite guy up there. I know I was just talking about avoiding the narratives, but Zalatoris has to win to get into the playoffs. He's still not eligible based on the wacky rule of the PGA Tour. He can't get those points unless he wins. And so he's also a home guy, home narrative. So he's got 2 narratives going for him. Can I talk you into some Zalatoris?
Yeah, I don't mind it. We've got him as the lowest owned of the 10K plus right now. So I think that, 10-3 is a great tournament play. So like him. Matsuyama, I worry about a little bit, obviously last week with kind of that whirlwind Sunday, plus the travel after the Olympics, maybe a little bit of fatigue with him. Certainly Louis been playing well. Kokrak's been playing well. So Matsuyama is the highest salary on the board at 11K. Not that he's a bad play. I don't see him being in the mix this week. I think this might be the week where maybe all the travel and the stress of the rounds, he was in the mix at the Olympics as well, maybe catches up to him a bit.
Yeah, I kind of agree. And anytime the score is going to be 20 under plus, just guys that can't really putt that well worry me. I do think, his tee to green game will be fine, but he's probably going to have to gain 2 or 3 strokes putting if he wants to win this week. And that definitely worries me. And really, Webb's the only guy that doesn't feel overpriced. Kokrak's usually in the 8K range. Same with Zalatoris. Louis deserves the price tag for sure, but he's never played here before. So, yeah, for me, it's just Webb. I'll have a couple shares of Louis, probably a couple shares of Zalatoris, but everyone just feels super overpriced outside of Webb.
Yeah, Brian Harmon at 9,900.
That's why isn't he 12K? Why isn't he 12K?
But he's gonna get some ownership too. So yeah, that's why I mentioned a lot of this field is the guys that are on that playoff bubble. Guys that are securely inside the top 50. There's really not a ton of incentive for them to come play this week. So that's why we do have a weaker field than usual. You're going to see a lot of these 8 and 9K guys you're not going to feel super comfortable with. So that starts with Harmon. Where do you land on him this week? And do you prefer anybody else in that range over him?
Yeah, I like Harmon. I didn't play a ton of him last week, and he didn't do that much. So I feel pretty good about going back to him this week. I think it's a better course fit, a little bit shorter than the course we saw last week. He's obviously good putter, much better from the proximity ranges that we were expecting this week than we had last week. His mid irons and his wedges are a lot better than his long irons. So I do like Harmon. I don't like the ownership or the price that much, but I'll play some of him. Tommy, I'll just continue to fade him in America. It's been working for, a year now. So I'll continue to do that. I like Sung Jae a little bit. He lost 6 strokes with the short game last week. That's very uncharacter-like for Sung Jae. He's historically similar to Webb on his best par 70s with Bermuda green. So I like Sung Jae. Henley's going to be one of my most popular golfers. He's number 1 in the proximity ranges that I'm looking at. He's got some good finishes here, 3 top 20s in his last 4 starts. So I think he makes a ton of sense. Don't feel great about Wolf, Scott, or Siwoo. Do you have any preference, or Bubba actually? So I'm probably not going to be playing anyone, between 9K and 9,300.
Yeah, I don't love that range either. Henley and Im are definitely my favorites, but that's kind of going along with the ownership there. But maybe you get a little bit different in the other ranges. Did you see that Siwoo made a 13 last weekend?
So I didn't get to watch the highlight, but I saw it on the scorecard. I would check every few minutes, and I saw 13. So I need to go back and did they have the play-by-play on the app?
Yeah, a lot of red on
Okay.
there. A lot of red penalty shots. Um, and he birdied the next hole, so the ultimate bounce back birdie. And I laughed because I posted this on Twitter that he wasn't getting any top 50 points anyway, particularly after that. But a 10 over par hole followed by a birdie in the traditional contest scoring is worth more fantasy points than 2 consecutive pars. So the +9 over 2 holes ended up netting him more points than 2 pars would have.
That's wild. And he lost 17 strokes on approach. I mean, like 10 of them were from that one hole, probably, but
Yeah. And
that's wild.
he's got good history here, and I know he pops randomly, but I mean, he's been so off lately, particularly on approach. I don't see it just turning around. So give me Im, give me Henley. Maybe a little bit of Scott at 5%, but I don't really love that either. So
Yeah. And it's going to suck for Siwoo because we're going to run models for the next 6 months, and that one hole is going to bring down his approach numbers.
Yeah, pretty significantly there. It was a rough hole for him, but it was impressive to see him birdie the next. All right, let's get into the 8K range, which similarly, you got guys that feel overpriced. Robert McIntyre, 8,900. He's been around like 7K lately. Ricky Fowler at 8,600 and has looked a little better. Seamus Power seems like the chalk in here, which seems a little strange, but he tends to do well in these weak field like Birdie Fest. These are the events where Seamus Power often shows up. I know you really like Schwartzel this week, so I'll let you talk about him. But no, it just again, these guys, it's tough to target them when they're 8K plus.
Yeah, it's kind of a dead range for me. I know Bobby Mack needs a pretty good week to secure his PGA Tour card, so if you want to play that narrative, you certainly can. Feels a little overpriced for me, but he has been playing pretty well in some of the bigger events. So maybe he can get it done. I kind of think of him as more of a bomber than like a good iron player. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do with him. Seems like a good course fit for Kevin Na, but his last 2 starts, all short game. He's actually lost 2.3 strokes ball striking and gained 15.7 around the green and on the green in his last 2 starts, where he finished second and 23rd. So that worries me. Like you mentioned, Woodland and Fowler kind of just feels like we're paying for the name and not the form. Don't think I'm going to have a ton of that. I'm going to be fading Seamus Power coming off of the win. I know he's been in great form. I know the stats are good, but I just kind of always like to hop off these guys after they reach, the top of the mountain there. I like Kisner. He was in pretty good form before the last couple of events. Seems like a good course fit. He was T3 here in 2020. I like Kevin Streelman. He's kind of the opposite of Kisner in that he's got really bad course history and really good stats. But I like him quite a bit. And then, yeah, Charo, jokingly, I picked him to win, but I think he really could. I mean, coming off of a T2 at the 3M, we also saw him have a T3 earlier this season on Bermuda greens. Is by far his best putting surface. Guy that can just get red hot with the iron. So, yeah, I like those 3 in the bottom range, and I think those are going to be the only guys that make my player pool this week.
Yeah, Schwartzel has been solid in other like Birdie Fest events this year too. It's weird to see him at 15% ownership, but he's definitely getting that social media steam. Almost tweeted at you last night when I saw you messaging about it to ask if if you had taken up some recreational goodies after NBA season here, since you're all aboard the Schwartzel train this week. But then you look at the rest of the field and it just doesn't seem that crazy.
Hey, I was playing him back when he was like 6,400.
Oh yeah, we had him as the guest of golfer. Like the first time we ever started doing that in this show, we had him as our guest of golfer. We will do that later in the show for our favorite sub 7K golfer of the week. So we'll get your guesses ready for that. And if you are not a Rotogrinders premium member, great time to sign up. We'll have Devin, our producer, drop the link in the chat. Get you $10 off your first month. You can sign up for any single sport or our combo package, which includes almost everything except NASCAR. Huge with football coming up soon, college football coming back. We got, golf winding down. Before you know it, it'll be NBA and NHL season again. So busy time on the sports calendar for sure. Check that out. We think you'll like what we have to offer. We've added some new stuff to the golf package as well. Noto's model is downloadable and customizable. And I believe you have that out already for this week, correct?
Yep, got a tutorial video up there too. If you want to give it a shot, it's a lot of fun. If you always, like to tinker with your own stuff instead of just relying on others' work, yeah, go download it. You can customize all the different weights. If you just want to look at birdie makers or off the tee or guys that have been in good form, last 12 rounds, whatever it may be. Yeah, whatever you think is important, you can adjust it for it and then build lineups straight off that. So pretty cool new tool.
Very cool. Great development there. And of course, Noto referenced Ron, aka PGA Splits. He's doing some work for us as well, and up stuff on our golf product. So, all right, let's keep going through it. Anything else in the 8K range that we didn't cover?
I mean, EVR from the Clouds wins the Barracuda last week. Did you see that?
No, I saw that he was in the mix there. I didn't look at the final leaderboard, but how about that? I did not see that.
Yeah, so that should secure his card, right? For at least a year or two.
So, yep.
And then Justin Rose. Where's Justin Rose on that 125 list?
Let me pull it back up. I usually have it up for this show, and I closed it a little while ago. So, all right. So I know like Kuchar is like 127. Fowler is like 130. Or let's see. I stand corrected on. Kuchar is 124. Fowler is 130. Justin Rose is 138. So, yeah, he's probably not going to get it without like a top 2 or 3 finish. 138.
Well, wouldn't Rose have been so bad to me? So I'd be okay if he misses the playoffs.
The karma coming back.
I'd have to see him all those commercials all week.
That's what it is. It's the commercials, Rose and Fowler, and it's just they've all gone with the commercials. Yeah, EVR is the guy that kind of pops out of nowhere, but I don't know if I want to take him off a win either. Give me my boy Mito at 7,900. Can't go wrong there. So, and that's where, it's interesting. We don't love the 9Ks and we don't love the 8Ks, but the 7Ks, and there's not a lot in the 6Ks, but the 7Ks is loaded. I mean, I think I could probably pick 15 guys out of the 7Ks that I'd feel okay with, because the lines separating the middle of this field are so small, but yet again, because we got all those guys on the playoff bubble, but they have to, everybody's got slightly different odds and they have to fill up those pricing tiers. But really, I mean, there's not a whole lot separating some of the guys priced at 8,600 from the guys at 7,400 this week.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I feel so good about Webb. It's one of those weeks I might consider locking him into my 150. Only do that a couple times a year. But you can play, I mean, if you lock him, then you can play maybe one other, high 9 or, low 10 guys, and then, just hit that 7K range. It's so much better from a value standpoint than the 8Ks and the lower 9Ks that we're talking about. So yeah, I agree 100%. I love the 7Ks, and then we'll talk about it in a minute, but the 6Ks are really ugly. So kind of an interesting week.
Yeah, for sure. It's a strange field. Makes kind of narrowing down your player pool a little bit unique. So, well, let's take the 7Ks in multiple segments here, as we got plenty of time. The 8 and 9K ranges were pretty weak. So let's start with kind of that 7,600 or 7,700, 79 to 7,900 range, where we've got, maybe 4 guys touching double-digit ownership with Gooch, Johnny Vegas, Snedeker, and Mito Pereira. You got Poston and Lucas Glover in that mix as well, and both have posted a couple of results here or there over the last 2 months. Glover with the win, of course, a few weeks ago. So who's your favorite out of kind of that bunch of 5 or 6?
Yeah, favorite's probably Patton Kazire. He's one of those guys that he can get red hot with the irons. He can get red hot with the putter. He's actually first over the last 24 rounds in birdie or better percentage in this entire field. So I like him quite a bit. I always prefer him on Bermuda greens as well. And he's made at least 4 straight cuts here. But there's so many good plays in this range. I like Brandt Snedeker at the very top. He's been playing his best golf of the season. He's won here before. You mentioned Mito. We talk about the guys that play the Korn Ferry Tour. Those are birdie fests, and he won 3 times on the Korn Ferry Tour. So this should be a course to his liking. Johnny Vegas makes a lot of sense too. He's been bad at this event, but He's gained 16 strokes on approach in his last 4 events. That's typically been his weakness. So he's found something with the irons. And then his comp course score on Ron's splits thing, he's like 4th in the field. So certainly a guy I'll have a bunch of exposure to. I like Gooch as well. He's consistent. Another guy that's very good with his irons and a very good putter. Those are kind of like the 2 things that I'm looking at the most this week. The one guy I'm probably going to be underweight on is Lebiota. I don't know. I mean, what are you going to play him?
I think I am a little. I mean, it's just too cheap there with the way he's been playing, and he can putt. I mean, you know, it's just when you need birdies, like I trust him to make more 20-footers than Kazire or Varner or some of these other guys down there. So, like, I don't love playing him as chalk, but you just look at his results, and even don't be fooled by the bad result at the 3M that shows on his player cards on DraftKings. He made the cut, but his dad was really sick, and that was the withdrawal. And he's not going to be as popular as he was that week. A lot of people got burned, and it is what it is. You got to take care of your family. So,
all right, I told myself I was going to do it. What's his ranking?
Who, Lebiota?
Yeah, does he need a big week?
He is 90th, so he is.
Oh, okay, he's fine. Okay.
Yeah. But I mean,
oh man,
6th,
you're right though.
5th, 4th, 8th, and then he was in a decent position and had to withdraw, and he rolls in putts. At least when I don't play him, he makes 60-footers all the time. I mean, it's crazy. And if you played him that week when he was 30%, you got to play him at 7,600 this week.
All right, yeah, you're probably right. I'll add him back to the pool.
Sold. It didn't take that much of a sales pitch.
The WD was the first week I played him, so I was feeling a little biased there.
If he misses the cut this week, you're allowed to put him on the no playlist for a while. But I'm even though he's somewhat popular at that salary, I got to. And I did not play him the week he was chalk and withdrew, so I guess I'm playing with house money a little bit there. But all right, let's go ahead and move down to this. You mentioned Kazire. Don't mind him as well. We kind of move into that middle 7K range, 75, 74, 7,300. Nobody really cracking double digits in our projected ownership here, but we do have Varner, Chesareevy, Brandon Grace, Doug Gim, and great call on the Olympics again with Sabatini coming through with the silver medal, just pin hunting there on Sunday on that pretty easy setup to bring home the medal. And you had brought him up on that show. So he needs to do it again. He needs to run it back. He's 141 in the standings right now. So Sabatini isn't getting there without a W, most likely. So, he can throw caution to the wind and I mean, should be playing with confidence. Heck, his last round got him an Olympic medal and he shot 10 under par. So, I don't mind going back to that well a little bit, but Adam Schenk, Patrick Rogers. I mean, again, other names that really aren't that much different than some of the names we see in the 8K range. So who are some of your favorites in that kind of 73 to 7,500 bucket?
So the model like Zach Johnson, one of those guys that accurate off the tee, good putter. His irons have been a lot better the last 2 events. Harold Varner, just you never know what to get from him, but he does have a lot of upside. I think he's a local guy too from North Carolina. The model also likes Chris Kirk and Joel Damon, so I'll have some of them. Outside of that, I don't have a strong feeling about anyone. Shank's a guy that's shown more upside than usual recently, so I like him. At the bottom range, I think Brendan Todd's interesting. One of the most accurate drivers of the ball on tour, one of the best putters on tour. So it all comes down to that approach play. If he's even decent, I think he's going to have a really nice week. He's got really bad course history, so nobody's going to play him. Looks like he's at around 3% ownership right now. And then at the bottom range, definitely like Ryan Armour. Feels like we're, this going to be more chalky than the 12% that we have projected for him, but 4 straight top 25s here, 4th in the field in accuracy off the tee, pretty good with his irons, really good from the proximity ranges, and he's a really good putter, especially on Bermuda. So are you playing a chalky Ryan Armour?
I don't know. I don't mind it. He's 122 in the standings. If he wants, he needs a good week too. So, yeah, I probably will, simply because the 6K range kind of stinks. So I don't mind Armour. Boho guy wrote up this week. You don't feel super great about these guys, but you start to get a lot of them that are on the bubble down here. Hogue is 125. Kyle Stanley. I see TJ has him tagged up there, so I won't play all those guys, but I do like Hogue a good bit, and yeah, Armour probably next on that list. So, I mean, he definitely grades out well on a projected points per dollar basis. So,
Yeah.
see if we
Stanley's interesting. He's gained 41 strokes ball striking over his last 7, and he's got like no good finishes really because he putts so bad.
Yeah, he might be the one I'm out on in this range. I mean, you got to make putts here.
Mm-hmm. Same with Luke List.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah, I
agree.
agree.
Go with Hogan Armour. All right. Well, probably time for us to break out our Guess the Golfer game. Guess our favorite golfer under 7K, and they're all pretty much not owned this week. So it's not, you don't need a big hint of it's got to be, a sub 6,500 guy or a sub 5% owned guy. I mean, this is a name that isn't going to be too far off the radar, but will be an option in our player pools for the under 7K on DraftKings. And first one to guess it in the YouTube chat, for those of you who are watching us live, free week of Rotogrinders Premium coming your way. Try to limit yourself to, let's say, 2 guesses per person to give everybody a chance, and we'll see if anybody gets it here shortly. All right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't see 2 guesses. Yeah,
Jay still said he had it in the bag, but didn't get it on his first guess.
Didn't get it on his first guess. That's right. Okay, some of your favorites under 7K, with the exception of our mystery guest.
So I have a total of 5 notes, not even guys that I'm including in the player pool yet. So I don't know if I'm going to have much exposure. One of them is the Guess the Golfer guy. Another is Brian Stewart at 6,900. Very accurate off the tee. Pretty good from the proximity ranges that I was talking about. And then coming in with pretty good form, 3 top 15s in his last 4 starts. I think Matt Kuchar is interesting. He's been so bad, but you mentioned the motivation that he has. He's a pretty good putter. I think of these shorter courses as Matt Kuchar type of courses, and he's only 6,800 at 1% ownership. So I'll have some of him. And then Denny McCarthy, good course history. He's kind of similar to Brendan Todd. All comes down to the irons. He's been really bad recently for sure. And then I think Roger Sloan's interesting as well. Just a guy that has really good stats and makes a lot of birdies.
I feel like this week has turned on its head. Noto's rolling with some good putters. That's not the norm. You gotta.
I've changed my ways over the years. I got burned by so many bad putters. You can only take so much.
It can only take so much, Luke List, in your life, for sure. So let's see. Let me look through the some decent guesses, but no correct answers yet. So keep on guessing. There was something. I almost tagged you the other day, or I guess after Thursday, after we talked about Jim Herman on last week's show. And he still ended up only being like 4% owned, and I think he was the first round leader. If not, he was close.
Yeah, he was close, and people on Twitter that were backing him were taking victory laps like crazy.
And that's why PSA number 1: don't victory lap your golfers on Thursday. Mm-hmm. It can only go one way from there if they're in the lead. You gotta let that simmer a little bit. Not that I'm accusing anybody here of doing it, but it just it only leaves fuel to the fire for the old takes exposed accounts. But anyway, it was an impressive start from Herman. So I don't know, maybe this week it's still 3%, and the approach numbers are still pretty decent over the last couple months.
Didn't he win here too?
I think he's the defending. I think he is the defending champ. That's not going to happen again. Well, there goes that excitement. Can't play the winner, right? Yeah, all right. Well, that was a thought. This range is really, we got a winner. Harry Brandt, Norlander, on his first guess, I believe. Well done.
Yeah, Harry B, good job.
So yeah, I wrote up Norlander at the Olympics. Didn't do much. That's super exciting, but the form has been better over the last few months. What other notes you got on him?
Good ball striker. He's much better putter on Bermuda than any other surface, so I like that quite a bit. And gained at least 2 strokes ball striking in 4 of his last 5. So coming in decent form. I think he's made a bunch of cuts in a row. Looked pretty good at the Olympics too, at least for most of the Olympics. And just think he's got some more upside than most guys in this range.
Yeah, and that's a pretty low bar because there's just not a whole lot of upside in here at all. So,
Who are your guys? You didn't mention many.
well, there's not a whole lot else in the 6K range. That's about it. So, I don't mind Norlander. Let's see. Like, I'll probably leave a few guys in my player pool down here just for random like shots at upside, and they're not great golfers. Well, let me back that up. They're not in the best of form, but like guys like Werenski, Sam Ryder, Davis Thompson, like guys that you can maybe have some upside. Seifert, I get sucked into every now and again. Like Vaughn Taylor, these are his types of courses, but you just don't feel great about any of these guys down here. Like these are basically guys that are, you're throwing into a multi-entry, 100 lineup type of build. Like, and I think you would agree in like a single build or a cash games, or you're doing one main lineup this week, like you're not going below 7K, right?
I don't think so. Maybe Norlander if I want to get super risky, but that just seems like a bad idea. So probably not. If you start with Webb and single entry, you're still left with 78, 80. So probably not a need to go down.
Yeah,
there.
and the 7Ks is so loaded that you could play 3 guys in there.
Yeah.
You can probably still fit your favorite 8 or 9K guy in there, and you're not going to want to play too many of those. So yeah, it just not a whole lot in that 6K range, but 7K range, tons of golfers this week. So let's talk about prize picks. We always bring them up towards the end of the show, and if you remember last week, I forced Noto to take an over this week. You can do over under on finishing positions over at Prize Picks now, and I told him he had to take an over because he doesn't like rooting against his golfers, so he wants to bet the unders and better than the projected finishing position. And we did good last week. Noto, I believe all 3 of your picks hit, correct?
Yeah, first week with 3 for 3, and I have no problem rooting against this guy. So,
and I didn't love Louis last week, and I said, well, maybe make a couple pivots. One of those hit as well. So even with a pivot from one of your picks, still would have had a 3 for 3. So good options there last week. So this week, Noto was liking. Let's see, we got under 11.5 on Webb Simpson. I think that's a good call. Under 21.5 on his boy Brian Harmon, staying true to the brand this week, and over 39.5 finishing position on Justin Rose. So yeah, you're really rooting against Rose this week.
Yeah, I didn't like any of the overs, to be honest with you. But you made me do it. I made you do it. So I picked my least favorite guy of the bunch. Yeah, I mean, Webb feels like a lock at 11.5. So really, we just need the next 2. Harmon won't ever let me down when I play him. So it's really just down to Rose. If Rose hits, we get all 3.
That's right. Well, you can use promo code Grinders over at Prize Picks, 100% deposit bonus up to $100 if you want to check them out. And then the upcoming PGA Tour schedule, we mentioned it's the playoffs starting next week. So 3-week series of playoff events, Northern Trust at Liberty National next week. The BMW Championship is at Caves Valley in Owings Mills, Maryland, which I believe is a new course this year. And then, of course, the Tour Championship at East Lake, which is the top 30 golfers. So it'll only be the next 2 weeks where we have next week with a full field, and then a more condensed field for the BMW, and then the top 30 for the Tour Championship. And then just a quick break before the new calendar rolls around, and it'll be back to golf again. So Noto, anything else for this week before we call it a tournament? Pretty weak field here, so a little easier to get through.
Yeah, pretty weak field. If you are a premium member, give the model a shot. Let me know what you like, dislike about it. I'm going to be changing it up over the next few weeks, just based on any feedback. If you ever have any questions, hit me up on Twitter. DMs are open, so any questions, just let me know.
Did you get a lot of feedback last week, or?
It was all just like, we love it, and so that's awesome. But
yeah, I mean, it's a new thing for people. So I mean, anything new and exciting, it'll. Once you get people that use it for, a month or 2 months, you probably get some constructive feedback on that, but definitely a great addition to our content. So check that out. And well, I guess we'll go ahead and get out of here then. And for our producer, Devin, always working super hard behind the scenes late at night, helping us get this show on the air. We appreciate that. Thanks to Noto, as always, for joining me. I am Justin. Have a great week, everybody, and good luck in all your contests. We'll see you next Tuesday.